Welcome to Miko's Music Connection. In honor of Kyo, Karu, and Shinya, this month I will be talking about my favorite J-rock band and the inspiration for this video series. Darn Gray! Woo! Hello, and welcome to Miko's Music Connection. This month, I will be talking about my favorite J-rock band and inspiration for this video series, Deer in Grey. Hi, my name is Miko Suzahiro, and I'm going to tell you about a new program that we have that might help you and make you a little bit more happy. Do you hate money as much as I do? Because I have something brand new that you can invest your money that you just want to get rid of. It's called Deer in Grey. It's finally time for me to talk about Deer in Grey. Welcome to Miko's Music Connection, and as you can tell, I'm gonna be talking about Deer in Grey this month. So, a little backstory before I introduce you to this lovely group. 9 years ago, I mentioned in the 4th episode of this series, I started with Aaliyah for January because it is her birth month. And I was planning on the next month, February. It was going to be, of course, as the series concept was supposed to be, as far as like how the music speaks to me personally, was another group that had a deep impact on my life, which was Deer in Grey, and I picked it for February. I picked them because 3 of the members, their birthdays are in February. And I had the hardest time trying to film it. I wrote like a whole outline for it. I filmed it. I didn't really like how it went. I tried a different route of scripting and filmed it, and I didn't care for it too much either. Tried a different approach with a similar scripting method. Didn't like it. And then I tried to have a little bit of fun, a little bit of humor. Very cringy. And here we are. Another attempt, another year, a different method of trying to capture the legacy of this group and what they mean to me and what they have contributed to not only Japan but the world. And coincidentally, as I have learned in a Facebook group that I belatedly joined this year, it was announced that it was their 25th anniversary month. I guess I never really thought of them actually coming together in the month of February. So this is all pure coincidence. When I planned to put this on February, yet again, I was only thinking of birthdays, and then I found out, holy crap, it's been 25 years since this group has been together. And adding on to that coincidence, they also announced that they will be releasing their 11th studio album this summer called Fearless. If you are part of my Patreon, you will understand how I feel about this moment right now. Me sitting here in front of the camera in my Duran Gray shirt, got my script, raring to go. I'm excited, guys. I'm feeling really good about this now. So without further ado, here's Duran Gray. So for my long-term Muddy Cold followers, you know that I was obsessed with Japanese rock music and the visual kei scene. I apologize to all my friends who knew me back then. I'm sure I was hella annoying in high school, because in 2005 I was introduced to Japanese rock music and visual kei scene. It really blew my mind, and it continues to blow my mind. I feel like now, as a J-Rock fan, I'm, I guess, a little bit more low-key with my love for visual kei, but nonetheless, I still love it. It's still an amazing genre. The community, the little bit I interact with it, has been great. I've met so many awesome people in the J-Rock and visual kei genre, so I love you guys. Stay awesome. And I hope you enjoy this video, for those who are still with me on this channel. But for those who don't know who Duran Gray are, they are now, have been, legends of the visual kei scene. They came together in 1997. Originally, 4 of the 5 members were part of a little band called Mercedes, and when they decided they were going to move to Tokyo, their bassist Kisaki, who later joined a different visual kei group, Phantasmagoria, and some other groups, which I might talk about later, he decided, no, I want to stay here, and they picked up a new bassist by the name of Toshio. These 5 young men decided to change their name to Duran Gray. From what I've read from the same Facebook group, they had a different name, but they got outvoted and they have this name. So if you're ever curious, from years ago research, because I've done many projects and write-ups of this group for school and whatnot, their name is interpreted as To You in Gray. It combines 3 different languages: German, Spanish, and English. I think that's pretty awesome and very unique. Some of their influences for their music was a couple other legendary groups, Kiryumi, who most people know their vocalist, Kiyoharu, who's done solo material and other band activities, and Duralinger, which is another band that I super love, and coincidentally also has a vocalist named Kyo, and coincidentally another one of my favorite rock bands, Linkin Park. Surprise, surprise. And another legendary influence from Japan was X Japan, which later turned out to be an iconic moment for them, because the leader of the group and a very essential figure to the visual kei history, Yoshiki, produced their very first mini album, Misa. So that's super cool to have your hero help you out with your first release, right? So what brought me into this awesome group? Well, as I said in the beginning, 2005 I was introduced to the whole genre of J-rock and visual kei. This introduction was brought on by a friend of one of my best friends, who later became my friend as well. They were really into visual kei, Japan culture, etc., etc. I got a brief little history by watching PVs from legendary groups like X Japan, of course, because that was their favorite group and they loved Hide. Also, Lee Arc-en-Ciel and Alice Meeser, which in turn led me into checking out some of the solo acts that came from that, such as Hyde and Gact, and of course, as I mentioned, Hide. A little bit of Yoshiki, a little bit of Toshi's projects, but that's how that goes. As time went on, I heard a little bit about Duran Gray from them, and they joked about how intimidating and cool like Kyo is, with like how grotesque his performances and their videos, and you know, eating dead babies, etc., etc. You know, the shocking stuff. Think of like Marilyn Manson and Ozzy Osbourne. You know, that kind of shock factor. Because back then, like, visual kei really came from, like, you know, the glam rock scene. It was all about the visuals, but also the music mattered as well. You know, check out my whole panel about visual kei. Like, I did a whole panel about it. And I also owe you guys, like, 4 panel videos about my visual kei education. So, I'll get there. Don't you worry. But the more they talked about Duran Gray, I was very intrigued, and I thought I was going to get my first glimpse of what, like, the band was. They were trying to set up their laptop, and I got to see a little preview of a video called Isle. Of course, I didn't know that's what it was called until later, and it didn't have sound. They didn't even play the whole video. But after the whole talks about Kyo, I did my own research, and back then it was very difficult to find visual kei online. Yes, it was of the internet age. Yes, we did have internet in 2005, but looking for things across the pond was a journey. It was difficult. This was the age of when, you know, you never knew what you were gonna get when you downloaded from places like Napster and BearShare and Kazoo. Is it gonna be, you know, Zoolander? Is it gonna be a virus? Is it gonna be, you know, an adult video by pure accident? Is the quality even gonna be, you know, passable? Could you even tell what it was? It was that kind of journey, and I didn't really have resources back then. Until later when I got a little bit further into my journey of checking out their music and discovered places, communities on LiveJournal. Am I showing my age yet? Through these downloads, I came across one of those intimidating videos, which was Saku. For someone who was into rock music, granted it took me a while to get into it, I never really experienced something this intense as Saku. So it was kind of a shock for me, and I kind of understood the intimidating factor of Kyo and his vocals and his visuals. But I kind of was still intrigued by it. Maybe it was the horror elements of it all, but I kept digging. And really, before Saku, there was another video that introduced me to what they were, and this is probably contributing to why Saku was so shocking for me. I went back to one of my old videos when I first attempted to film this episode, and I tried to see what I said was my first PV from Duran Gray, and even then, I couldn't remember. It was between their very first video, Garden, or a video that coincidentally was a song that I learned completely in Japanese through lyrics, so, which was Cage. Both of these videos are very different. The videos and the songs are very different. Granted, they come from 2 different projects. Garden was from their very first release, which was Misa, which I mentioned earlier, which came out, I believe, in 1998. And Cage came from their very first album, which was a little bit later. So the sounds were different, but it still felt like them. As I continued to dig, there was another song that really hit me, and it was another song that I learned, and I probably still know all the words to, which is Kasume. Very beautiful song, very beautiful melodic guitars, and I just love that instrumental moment. It still resonates to me to this day. But it wasn't until Embryo came in front of me that I decided to seal the deal and say, I think I'm gonna be part of this fandom now. I love this. This is great. So, along with them, and another J-Rock addiction I had, which was Miyavi, I was complete visual K-trash. And I'm loud and proud and don't care what anybody says. I'm going to insert an old clip of me really describing the other two videos that I got into.
To end my beginnings with the band through PBs, I believe Embryo sealed the deal for me to commit to the band. KR Cube gave me a glimpse of the members' personalities, and Yokon displayed the extra visual diversity and an appreciation for Kyo's lyricism.
I will add a little bit of something to that. KR Cube was the moment that my honmen, as they say in Japan, which is your favorite member, he chose me. I just want some people to understand that, for those who just don't get favorite members or biases or whatever you want to call it on whatever genre. Sometimes your favorites, you don't get to pick them. Most of the time they pick you, and Dai picked me in KR Cube, and he has been a long-standing favorite, and I will always love him. There you go, there's my fangirl showing. Eventually, I finally procured my very first J-Rock album, which naturally, of course, Styrian Grey's Withering to Death. This album still is one of my favorite J-Rock albums of all time. This is also definitely in my top 5 Styrian Grey albums. I've played this album so much that I think Saku kind of skips a little bit. I probably should clean it, but this album's bomb if you've never listened to it and you're just now getting into J-Rock, so definitely check this one out. Is it my absolute favorite Styrian Grey album? I really don't know. I would have to sit there and rank it, and maybe that's a video for another day of me ranking their albums, but there's definitely some albums I like more or less than this one. I can admit as a fan that not all of their albums are pure masterpieces. But that was something I had to learn through my journey of digging through their discography. Just so you know, before I move on to this next part, it's one of my favorite Styrian Grey tour shirts. The Ouroboros. Awesome shirt. You got all of the nice design here, and then on the back, you got the band and the tour dates. Love the shirt. So, the journey that I went on with this band and the journey that they had was definitely an experience that I'm happy that I can say that I was a part of. Over the course of their tenure, excluding these past few years, they have been able to travel around the world, getting bigger and bigger and more popular, and people seeing them. They did tours in Europe at first, and then they started to branch out to other Asian countries, of course, and then finally they made their way here to the good old US of A and Canada and maybe Mexico. Let's just say all of North America. And it started with their first appearance at South by Southwest, which is a multi-pop cultural, I guess, festival that happens in Austin. South by Southwest hosts not only musical talents, but they also have a film subsidiary festival as well. And I've always wanted to go, haven't quite gotten there yet, but to hear that they were going to be at South by Southwest was a big deal. I don't think any other like Japanese rock band of their stature has ever been there before. I mean, I'll correct myself if I was wrong. The person who introduced me to them got a chance to go to that show, and I got to hear some interesting feedback and stuff, and it was the time when Kyo was still doing barely, like, not really violent, but I don't know, he was still doing kind of like, he had a thing of doing like self-harm and stuff a little bit, so there would be blood every now and then. Over time he kind of got away from that and started expressing how he was feeling while they were performing in other ways, which I'll get into later. Fortunately for me and a different best friend of mine, we were able to see them on another appearance that they made, which was at Korn's Family Values Tour. What a time to be alive, to go to a outdoor summer festival in Texas. Oh my god, don't recommend it. It is very hot, but I will never forget that trip. At least I hope I never forget that trip. I missed out on getting tickets when they were in Houston, so Dallas was fine. And back then, we were still kind of young, and her mother took us all the way to Dallas, and she stayed at the hotel. And we went to the show, and it was a great opportunity to not only check out Darren Gray, but also a American band that I really love, which was Korn. Which is Korn. I mean, I still love them quite a bit, and they're still active. So they were able to travel around more locations in America, and it was great to see all of the pictures and responses and stuff about Darren Gray. They, of course, got more opportunities to collab with other American artists as opening acts as well. And they also got some recognition on Headbangers Ball, which some people were a little, I don't know, they had some feelings about it, but I really didn't care. It was that moment that I guess people or fans feel now about K-pop, or even, you know, this little group here, how they were excited to have people know who they are, but also felt very protective of their space because it was also getting a little tainted by some of the new fans. I got to kind of experience that when I went to a show in Dallas in, I believe, 2009. Not a good time. I overall did enjoy that people were finally get to know this wonderful talent from Japan, because they had opportunities to sell some of their albums and CDs and stuff in American stores at a little store called FYE, and even Hastings. I believe it was around the time when they were releasing Mirror of a Bone. I also think they did a American release of Withering to Death as well, and a single of theirs, so I thought that was super cool. They also got an opportunity to perform with, of course, one of their influences, Linkin Park in Japan, which I would have loved to see. And they got to collab with some other Western artists as well, so I don't know, insert clip of Kyo singing with Apocalyptica, because that was pretty awesome. with all the respect that they have achieved from Western artists, especially like Jonathan Davis and other, remarkable, legendary frontman of, these American bands, of course, all attentions were on them. It was great seeing them being like popular here in America. But of course, it kind of like died down a little bit, which kind of sucked. But they had some momentum, and it was awesome, and it was great, and I loved every bit of it. It was great to see, a Duran Gray t-shirt hanging at a Hot Topic. It was great being able to pick up a Cure magazine at a Hot Topic. It was cool to just be like, oh, they have, J-Rock CDs here at my local CD store at the mall. You can, buy a Duran Gray CD. You can get the Underneath. You can buy Muck now. What about Despair's Ray? Do you like them? They got a CD here too. It was just an interesting time to be, a J-Rock and BK fan back then. And I'm going to cherish those moments. Of course, with all of their international travels, this also influenced their music, which I will touch on a little bit later in this video. They also got to delve into some solo projects after they kind of slowed down a little bit with the main band stuff. Kyo got to experiment with a softer and more poetic side, and more avant-garde, as I guess would be the best way to describe it, in Suki Kyo, which is still very active to this day. Dai got to try his hand in the vocal position while still also playing guitar and singing along some other talented vocalists as well in his solo project Decays, which was also pretty cool. Karu and Toshia got to, play around a little in the fashion industry. I know Toshia did some collaborations and stuff. Shinya got to be Shinya. He's just a cute little bundle of joy. He got to also play a little fashion model in his time as well, and I believe he also did his own solo project as well, which, great deal. Love and support, your solo projects. So they kept themselves very busy, especially Kyo. He also dabbled in making a poetry book, and he opened his own art gallery for a limited time, so he was just dipping into other artistic visions, and it was great. I thought this moment of them trying different stuff would slow them down a little bit, give them a little break because they were getting older, but of course they eventually kept chugging along and putting out more releases, which, not gonna complain, but I was a little concerned because I really wanted them to take a break, especially from touring. They never stopped doing concerts, which is crazy. The inspiration for this video was this band. Every time they released a new album, I, for some reason, like to start from the very beginning, listen to every single mini album that I own up to the newest one. So I'll probably do the same thing when this new release comes out in the summer. One thing I notice, which is very similar to another rock band that I love and hold very close to my heart, Linkin Park, is their progression from each experimental genre that they took on. One thing that I can definitely say about the evolution of Duran Gray's music and their visuals is that it was a very smooth transition. They never lost the core of what they were doing. Their messages, the lyrics, the way that they displayed that in their music videos were always very consistent, even if the sound was just a little bit different. In their beginnings, they did channel a lot of what the foundation of what Visual Kei was. It definitely had that raw sound to it. When they came and explored other territories and the Western market, you can easily tell they had a lot of influence from that. One particular release that comes to mind was Agitated Screams of Maggots. It's not a particular favorite release of mine, but it definitely gave me a lot of Korn feels. They also had some other releases that kind of held that same sound, like Clever Sleazoid was also another, like, similar sounding song. And I like that one a little bit better. But they really delve a lot into a more Western metal sound. But it didn't seem too different from what they were doing before. They slowly dropped the visuals before they even came to America, which divided the fans, of course. Some people loved their old visual K sound and look, and other people were totally embracing this new era of them dropping their visuals and keeping a more casual look about them. But, I mean, at its core, the music essentially was kind of the same in a way, at least as far as lyrics are concerned. Of course, when they became more popular in America, the fans were even more divided. Some people accused them of becoming more, like, too Americanized. Sound familiar, armies? I didn't really see it that way. I mean, I could hear definitely the influences from American bands, obviously. But I don't think it really hindered what they were trying to do. Granted, I admit that A Mare of a Bone wasn't, like, one of my favorite albums when they released it, but I thought it was a perfectly fine collection of songs, and as time went on, I kind of appreciated more of the songs, but it's still not one of my favorites. But after that era, they kind of became almost their own genre. Sorry to bring it up. Kind of familiar, right? But they slowly started to come back into their visual element as far as their videos and then their visuals, but they mixed it with some of the more tame look and also metal, somewhat, you know, they call it in Japan uroguro, which is a combination of erotic and grotesque. They still kept all of that. It was just all very Dern Gray. I mean, you can put it in its simplest term of, yes, they're kind of a rock metal band. But in essence, I'd like to see it as they're kind of their own genre. Like, you can listen to a Dern Gray song and be like, that's Dern Gray. I don't think you could mix them up with any other Japanese rock band or visual K band that came out around that time, or even now. They're still very unique to the genre, and I really appreciate that and love that. Obviously, I'm not going to ask myself, am I a fan? Obviously, I am. It's been 17 long and proud years of being part of the Dern Gray fandom. Granted, lately I know some of my friends and family have seen that I've been scolding myself for not being the best of Dern Gray fans lately, because I was beating myself up for not jumping on that androgynous release that I really wanted and was loving that it was happening. It was a collaboration live between them and apparently their rival band, Pyro, and they had broken up, but they came together for this project, and my little fangirl heart was fluttering, especially because I was heavily into fanfiction and being part of role-playing communities on LiveJournal, and I'll admit, my two pairings were meeting from both bands, and I was excited. And one day I will own such a treasure, but yeah, it'd be kind of ridiculous for me to even ask, am I a fan? Obviously I am. Dern Gray means so much to me, and it took me a really long time to notice that I guess I did have my little emo phase, because of a lot of the bands that I was into. And Duran Gray's lyrics are not very happy, not super hopeful. I mean, there might be a glimmer of hope here and there in the lyrics, but they tackled some honest truths about the world and about the tragedies and sadnesses and misery that we all deal with as humans. But that's not the end all be all. Overall, their message was to like reach out and say like, look, you're not alone in this battle of just life, of going through it. And the way that they artistically put that together, the way that they pushed the boundaries when it came to visuals in their videos, especially for Japan, were very groundbreaking and ahead of its time. And it gave a lot of influences to other visual kei bands that came out with similar concepts, namely Gazette, for those of you who are into this genre of music. I cannot wait to see them again live here in America. I cannot wait to have the opportunity to fly to Japan and support them there and go to as many lives and experience what it's like to be among the Japanese fans and compare that experience with what I've experienced here in America. Really, Texas, because I've never really gone out of the country to go see them. Haven't been that hardcore yet. I cannot wait to hear this new album because it has been a really long time. But listening to their latest single, I'm not going to be surprised if it's going to be another masterpiece. Because honestly, biases aside, they put out some really solid projects, and I'm never afraid that what they give out to us is gonna be subpar. They have been together for 25 years. They have a standard, and I appreciate that. So, in conclusion, I finally did it. I accomplished and tackled my big creative block from 9 years ago. This episode of my favorite Japanese rock band, Duran Gray. And I hope I gave them the justice that they deserve. I probably didn't because they're so amazing. And I doubt they're watching, but your music means so much to me. And I will never forget the first live I went to that they were headlining at the Meridian. And they played one of their older songs, which of course, it was so cool to hear fans singing along, to hear Kosume live. I almost cried. It was just so enlightening, and it touched a part of me. I guess it's your soul, your heart. One thing for me that's important when it comes to any artist of any genre, of any language, the ones that I fall the hardest for are the ones that I can actually feel their music. And I don't mean the loudness or the noise, but just the ones that actually touch you internally. Some of these people, some of these musicians speak English, some of them don't. But you can tell that there's a passion and an emotion and a mood that you can relate to in the tone of the vocals, the instrumentation, the choices that they make in their music videos. And Duran Gray definitely does that, and they continue to portray that feeling when you see them live. Continue to put my biases aside. If you're ever able to see them in concert, it's not just a live performance. It is an experience. It is like going to church and your soul being moved. At least that's how it feels for me. Not only have I dug in the depths of like my own emotions these past few years and dealing with personal feelings and negativity and expelling that into and manifesting that into positive energy and stuff like that because of not only them but other groups, but they've also inspired me to actually commit to learning an instrument I thought was super cool as a kid. And while I was learning said instrument, I guess I could say what it is, a guitar, I felt a little discouraged and nervous because I was the only girl in my guitar class, but I watched videos of Dai and another guitarist, Karyu from Despair's Ray, and that gave me a little bit more encouragement to continue learning guitar. Granted, I still need to keep practicing guitar, but that helped me get through my class and, start at least the foundation of getting into guitar. And I just want to thank the band for just everything they have done on a personal level and on, I guess, just a non-personal level. I don't know. They've been so influential, and I feel like, in a way, they are part of the bricks of, I guess, paving the way for other Japanese bands to come to America and fulfill a need that doesn't get tapped very much. Visual Kei is still a very niche genre and community, but it's refreshing to see that the fandom continues to persist and thrive and grow internationally, even though right now we have to confine our community, at least live concert wise, to anime conventions and sometimes tours. But I've appreciated that these bands have decided to do online concerts to reach out globally, and I know During Grey has done that. So hoping, I guess, for another 25 years if they have it in them, because I know, I believe all of them now are in their 40s. Don't push yourself, that's all I gotta say. And thank you once again for 25 years of amazingness, of awesomeness, of emotion and love and creativity and pushing boundaries and just being unafraid to just be yourself. There you go. So that concludes the infamous hurdle of Miko's music connection. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments below on your feelings about this awesome band, how you're feeling about this upcoming new release. Very excited. And I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you so much. That's not just for the band, that's for you guys watching this video. Peace.